This is Aaron Short Music at NAMM. We're now in 2025. Can you believe it? And a huge update to the Standard Series and beyond. So first of all, Fred, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm very well. You having a good show?
So far, I survived last night.
We won't talk about that. I did notice that some of the Martin people were the last to leave. Anyway, we won't talk about that. Cut that out. Right, so huge update to the Standard Series. There's been a lot of videos already. I've got a few kind of techie, geeky questions I'd like to throw in, if you don't mind. But can we just start with an overview of what you've done to the Standard Series?
So we figured out that it's pretty easy. If you can make our guitars more vintage, generally people will like them. And the standard line, of course, is our most classic line. It's the D28s and the 18s and the triple O's and the double O's. So we just want to make the guitars look a little better. We want to make them sound a little better, and we want to make them play a little better. So we made a couple small changes, just refreshes to the line. Number one, let's start with some cosmetic issues that we've changed. We've gone to the long diamond on the back of the peg head, as opposed to the short diamond, which is more of a modern thing. So a long diamond, very vintage vibe. We've sort of refined the heel a little bit, made it a slightly more delicate heel. On these, they were getting a little bit clunky, in my opinion. We've taken the bridge ends, because the CNC's cut everything so precise, they're very sharp. The 90-degree angles they're knife sharp. In the old days, they used to hand sand all those, so they were very soft and rounded. So we've gone back to rounding off the edges of the bridge. So when you're palm muting and playing, you really feel that in the hand. So those are some of the cosmetic differences that we made, along with taking the nut and putting the nut on the slant, so at the edge of the peg head, as opposed to on the same angle as the fingerboard. As long as we're talking about the fingerboard, we've now gone to the authentic thickness fingerboard, which is key because we really wanted to make the guitars play better. The old thicker fingerboard was a little bit slab-sided, and the thinner board allows us to add a little bit of meat to the back of the neck to keep the same overall feel, but now we can round over the edges of the fingerboard like we do on our aged authentics. So when we play an aged authentic, it has that broken-in feel. We want all of our guitars to have that feel. So that allows us to do that. And then we've gone to a bone nut and pins, and of course, modern deluxe style golden arrow bracing. And those are the big changes.
The fingerboard is thinner.
Yes.
But is the overall neck in the hand the same as the previous?
Yes.
So there's no difference?
No difference.
Okay.
So we've kept the overall profile is the same. It's just there's more neck there than fingerboard on the edges. Okay. That's basically it.
Now, here's a big thing I was thinking about. I saw online the D28.
Yes.
Famous for non-scallop bracing.
Correct.
It's now scalloped?
It is. So what's hard for people to understand is golden arrow bracing, or golden arrow brace, is a brace blank. It's a very specific shape, right? That's scalloped in a specific way. And then we take that blank and we either shave it way down for authentics, or a little bit for the custom shop, or even less for the modern deluxes. But it's all starting with the same blank and the same blank shape. The golden arrow braces don't come in a non-scalloped version.
So it's period correct?
Period correct. And part of that is we've been making the non-scalloped version for almost 80 years, since 1940, somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't remember the exact date, but there's plenty of them out there. And we kind of wanted to return this to sort of a pre-war spec on some things, but we understood that some people like the outside look of those sort of 50s guitars without the herringbone, so we kind of left that there. And if you want the more pre-war version, you can get the herringbone in the HD. I don't have one out here on the wall, okay, but it is all cosmetic. So the HD would have herringbone, it would have diamonds and squares as opposed to dots, and it would have a zigzag backstrip. So those are the three main differences between the HD and the regular D.
So which guitars in the Standard Series have non-scallop bracing? The D35?
The D35 remains the same, and we left the 35s unchanged with regards to the bracing pattern, primarily because the 35s didn't come around till the mid-60s. They were never part of the Golden Arrow line in terms of bracing, so we just left those as they were. It has all the other upgrades that we talked about, but the bracing patterns remain the same. And our SC line, because it's modern and just relatively new, we made no changes in terms of that.
If people want to get those pins and put them in their existing guitar or an SC, can they buy them from the website?
Sure.
You sell those?
Absolutely. Yeah, we sell all those accessories.
So here's a question. I saw, I think the Sweetwater video, you mentioned this is like $700 worth of upgrades as a custom shop order. But if you order from the custom shop and ask for golden era bracing, is that the same as this, or is there...
No, it's a little different, but they still would have charged you. You could have asked for this bracing and they still would have got the same charge. You just got options in this when you go to the custom shop. I want the modern deluxe style of golden era bracing. I want something a little less. You can kind of make them however you want. It's hard for people to comprehend when they talk to other guitar companies. They tend to do things mostly the same. We've probably got at Martin maybe over 120 different bracing patterns.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
It's crazy. And the amount of different braces we make in the factory was frankly getting a little bit out of hand. So part of what we're doing here is trying to, with the standards, sort of standardize the bracing that we're using in the American factory, so we don't have to make so many different types and carry all those inventories around. And this allows us to control cost a little bit. So as I mentioned in one of the press conferences earlier, is so many companies these days are coming to you and they tell you they've got price increases for the exact same guitar that you bought last year. It just costs you a lot more money. While these guitars, the standard line, go up $100 in terms of price, we wanted to provide a lot more value than that. So the bone nut and pins and the golden era bracing and all these little long diamond and all those sort of changes, we wanted to give you a lot of value so it didn't feel like you were just getting a price increase for the same guitar that you've been buying for the last 80 years.
And how is the bracing done? Is this done by CNC or by hand?
Braces?
The braces, yeah, the golden era braces.
They basically they come in block form. We shape them downstairs using machines to shape. We have like molders and crowners and those kinds of things that put the general shape on, and then they go over it and they're still shaped by hand, like all the points. So you can see the old D28 bracing, and now you can see the new D28 bracing.
Can you show that up close?
Sure, absolutely.
So which one is that?
So this is the old one.
Okay.
And you can see how straight it is before they peak off.
And you can still order that from the custom. You have anything from custom shop,
order
right?
anything from
okay.
custom shop.
Okay.
You can also see how big the bridge plate is on the old version.
Yeah.
You can see the tone bars, the difference here, how straight they are and how straight they are here. So on the new version, this is the golden era, you can see how they start to taper down much quicker. They're not carried straight. You can see how the tone bars are scalloped. You can see how much more hand shaping is going on here compared to the old version, and you see how much smaller the bridge plate is. All far more traditional. The same width brace. People say, well, it looks clunky or chunky. They're exactly the same width between the two, but these were just crowned on a machine.
Did you have to retool at the factory for this then, for some of the processes?
Yeah, we had to do some retooling changes. And part of it is because of the volume of product we do through the standard series.
Yeah.
Right, so it's a lot of guitars in the general sense, because they're our most popular instruments. But you can still see there's a lot of hand work. These are all hand peaked. All this is done by hand. But they do come off with the general scallop like this from down in the machine room.
If someone's in a store and we're in this kind of changeover period between the old and the new, how would they identify if the guitar is the updated version? What's an easy way to tell?
I just tell everybody, just look at the nut. If it's on the slant,
so you can see that on the...
You can see that on the nut on the slant, right here, where it follows the head plate as opposed to following the fingerboard.
Right.
And that's the quickest way to just know.
Some companies, when they make a change like that, will do something very obvious to reflect that there's been a change, but there's many subtle changes, right?
Many subtle changes. You can also feel the edge if it's rounded as opposed to square and sharp. That's also a clue.
Yeah.
That's the new version. There'll be a few, the older ones still probably in stock, probably for the next couple months as dealers are swapping over and the new guitars are coming in.
And I cannot believe this is now part of the standard series. Is that correct? The double neck? And
yes.
I'm going to have to guess, as a big John Mayer fan, would this have happened if John Mayer hadn't have played that double neck on stage?
No, this is a direct influence of his solo tour, playing the double neck that we loaned him for a year and a half.
Is it a copy or not?
It's the same guitar without all the pearl. because the original guitar was a one-off show guitar that was never meant for sale. But other than that, it's the same guitar. Internally, it's the same guitar, same shape.
And does it have all the same upgrades that the guitars have you just showed me?
No, it's its own animal.
So it's a standard series instrument, but not standard series appointment.
Correct, because it's not vintage in that sense. It's the Proto was made in 2011. It's more period direct, and I think that's the way we were looking at it. And I kind of feel like we were a little bit crazy and maybe not that smart for even trying to attempt something this difficult, because it's a really difficult instrument to make.
I mean, just looking at it, just looking here, I mean, I can only imagine. Look at that. I can only imagine.
Yeah, I mean, there's 18 bridge pins. It's 18 strings, 18 tuning machines. There's 3 neck blocks in the front of the guitar in order to make the instrument. And you would think, oh, this is just terrible, or it's going to sound bad, or it's going to be heavy or unwieldy. And it's actually not. It's very well balanced. Very well balanced.
I would assume this would be limited edition, but it's not, right?
No, we just opened it up and...
You see what happens?
I was worried when we were building it. I said, oh man, this is going to be a $10,000 guitar. There's no way we're going to be able to build this thing for less than that, because the tooling to make that was really crazy. But we were able to get the price in at $79.99, so about $8,000, which I thought was actually pretty reasonable for a guitar like that if you're really into that kind of market. And of course, everybody who called us up and said they want one right off the bat were famous guitar players. Billy Strings, I want one. Trey Anastasio, I want one. All these people were posting they want one of these guitars.
It does look very cool, and as a guitar player, I mean, it's very functional.
Jake from Greta Van Fleet, they're all calling saying, hey, can I get one of these guitars?
And if you're looping and you have access to all those different sounds.
We got a custom Fishman pickup system in here. There's a toggle switch that allows you to toggle between the 2 pickups, so 1 in each bridge.
Is that the same as the John Mayer?
Yeah, John had a similar setup going on his.
And then what happened to the old trusty M36? It's not in the standard series anymore.
Correct. So to make room for some of the new guitars that we put in, because we are kind of a bit of hoarders when it comes to models at Martin, people complain that the line is too big and it's hard to understand, but nobody ever wants you to get rid of anything at the same time. So something had to go. We were adding a couple M's into the line this year, and signature models and in specials. So over here we added the Johnny Marr custom and signature model in October, and then Thomas Ripsom, if you want to walk this way. There's M's, yes, exactly. So the Johnny Marr piece over here on the right, which is a 7-string, so it's got the extra G in there to give you that octave, and it's really a great guitar. He's a sweetheart guy, and I absolutely adore this guitar. It's so much fun, and it's in a 35 style in the back. So a really cool guitar. Made it the way he wanted it, LR Baggs pickup. And then our CEO, Thomas Ripsom, decided he wanted to make a guitar this year, do something on his own. So he came out with the CEO 11, also using the same M4 body style. The difference with his guitar is he decided, he's from Germany, so we went with a German white oak on the back and sides, which is really different. And you can see that. Really pretty. Really pretty wood, looks great.
And this is limited, obviously.
That is limited to 1,111.
What about the Marr guitars? Are they this year only, or?
No, we're working with Johnny for a while, so I think maybe 3 years or so. Whatever he wants to do, it's really up to him. So this comes in a 7, and it also comes in a 6-string version. So if you don't want the 7-string version, you can also buy it in a 6-string version. Very, very cool.
This really is the year of additional strings, isn't it? With the double neck and this one.
It feels that way.
And then you brought back the OM45.
You did bring back the
Yeah, he's got it there. What was the thought behind that?
Well, the OM45, we haven't offered an OM45 for over 30 years. So we thought we just needed an OM in the line. I think it's one of the most beautiful, elegant guitars ever made, personally. I love the OM as it is, and not having one in the 45 line just seemed out of place to me, because so many of the early versions of the first 91 45s, there were OMs in there, and now we didn't have any in the line, so I thought that was important. And then we also added a 17 series into the standard line.
Yes, we should show that as well, just to show the other alternatives.
Yeah, so we're adding a 17 series into the line. we know the 15 is one of our most popular guitars that we make, frankly. But I've always wanted to make one with the traditional compound dovetail neck joint. I wanted to put the golden arrow bracing. I wanted to give it the full standard treatment. And so we came out with a 17 series. So it's kind of an upgraded version of a 15. And we're now going to put that permanently into the standard line. We come in a D in both the D and a triple O. And if you don't think there's a difference between the two, there's a big difference between the 15 and the 17 when you play them.
Yeah, and the 17 is made in USA and dovetail neck.
Compound dovetail neck joint, golden arrow braces. It gets the whole standard treatment, the thinner fingerboard, the whole works. Really, really cool. I really like this guitar a lot.
They're very popular. These guitars, like this one, are very popular. I know people rave about them online. They like how they sound.
Yeah, exactly.
So to offer that upgrade of that is a smart move, I think. If you're filling in all the gaps, aren't you?
That's really...
You cover all price points, basically.
We're trying to make the line... I know some people, whenever you change anything at Martin, everybody is immediately confused. And then if you try to change it back to the way they're not confused, then they're confused because you changed it again. So it's kind of...
Now I'm confused.
Yes, it's a bit of a no-win. They want you to kind of stay with the times and keep moving and offer things that you don't offer, and at the same time they don't really want you to change anything ever. And that's sort of I call it the golden handcuffs of having such a traditional brand.
I see a lot of comments saying, why is that guitar so blingy? Why are these guitars expensive? Like these kind of things. But if you look around the room, there's all price points met, from affordable to right the way up the scale.
Yes.
And as with other brands, you've actually made this standard series more vintage and traditional.
Correct.
So if you want an OM28, there it is. You don't have to look at, something like this. If that's not your thing, then that's okay, because you're really offering everything, and I think that's great. And then you've still got the SC for the stage guitars.
We're trying to get sort of what we call the evergreen models, the D28s and the 18s and those sort of products. Something that's easy for people to understand, and they're very vintage, and they don't really change that much. I mean, there are always little minor changes. When you've got almost 190 years worth of history, you've done everything so many different ways. Who's to say what's the right way or the wrong way? We're sort of picking eras and deciding we're going to use that era going forward for a while. And that's just sort of how we look at it, to try to keep people interested in what we're doing.
Going back to last year, we did a video on the Inception.
Yes.
So after 12 months, how do you feel about that guitar, and what response have you had, and what do you see for the future of that? Have you got any new ideas after 12 months?
You're going to see a lot more regarding some of the innovations with the Inception. We're going to see more Inception models coming.
Oh, so you are going to make more?
Oh, absolutely going to make more. Yeah, it exceeded our expectations in terms of sales. So we were really happy about that. People really like the way they play. They have their own sound, right? So they're very different sounding guitars. So once again, we're just trying to give people some variety, something they can, if D28s aren't your jam and nostalgia doesn't affect you because maybe you're younger or it's just not your thing, we want to give you something fresh and new that you can create music on, something that speaks to you, something that gets your own creative juices going. You know, not everybody wants a vintage looking instrument. We understand that.
It's clear to me there's a ton of, if you look at the lineup, there's a ton of variety between your artist models, the Inception, the standard series.
Sizes, shapes, scale lengths. I mean, the Billy Strings is that weird scale length. It's a 25-inch scale length.
7-string Johnny Marr, and the double neck. If anything, you're kind of going more out there, I'd say, but you've still got the standard series.
The evergreen part of the line kind of stays the same. So that's sort of the anchor, and then we sort of build fun stuff that are interesting things around that center core line. And that's sort of how we're approaching it. So all these guitars are kind of fun and fresh and new. And yeah, we do blingy guitars because we want to do some design exercises sometimes. I mean, that's the 3 millionth. So, you know, you're right. People may say, wow, come on, what's the point? That's just too much bling on that guitar. We wanted...
That's really the point, isn't it?
That is the point. It's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to show everybody that there's a skill level at Martin Guitar after 190 years. that frankly just other companies can't do. I mean, nobody's crazy enough to attempt product like this. I mean, those lines, there's 192 rings on the top of that, like the inside of a tree, and they're all lined with gold and different pieces of wood. And then each ring is marked with a milestone gem on the exact year that it occurred. You've got the Moravian star, which, because the Moravians were a religious sect that settled in the Nazareth area. So we put that on the top of the peg head. You see leaves on the side, on the shoulders of the instrument that are inlaid in gold that have the fingerprints of employees etched into them. Because it's C.F. Martin and Company.
Yes, I love it.
It's not just one man. It's a company of people over multiple generations. It's hard to get people to understand that, you know, we were making guitars in Nazareth before the Civil War, before light, electricity. And those guitars still stand, and they still inform the products that we do today.
It's a celebration.
It's absolutely a celebration. And then when you look at the back of the instrument, our current factory is on Sycamore Street. So inlaid on the back of the guitar, in green, pearl, and abalone, is a sycamore tree. So it's just, we wanted to do something just to sort of show the world and sort of exercise and celebrate what we're capable of doing as a company. It's not meant for people to get on stage and jam with. That's not.
I was going to say, it's clearly not intended to play down the Irish pub, although that could be fun too.
It'd be very popular. So yeah, we're gonna make 3 of these guitars, of which one will be for sale for $1.5 million.
That's the price.
That's the asking price.
So you really do meet every price point now.
We do, and then if you want a sort of one without all the jewels on it, over here in the corner, you can buy a D300, which just, as you see, doesn't have the same gems.
It's amazing when you look at that one and then look at this one. It's not nearly as impressive as if you started with this one and then looked at that one. Everything's relative, right?
It's all relative, and you can purchase one of these. These are go on sale for $300,000. There will be 30 of these made.
And I don't mean that disrespectfully.
Yeah.
It's just
No.
that one is clearly, the detail is just off the charts.
You know, it's over the top.
Yeah.
Right, and that was the point. But this is one, you know, if you're a well-to-do collector and you want something like this, then you can actually own it.
But if you're getting into guitar, you want a great guitar to start with at a very affordable price point, because obviously that's what most people are looking for.
Sure.
What would you suggest?
Look right here. That is our new Retro Pluses. So those will be coming out of Navajoa, and as you can see, they look exactly like a D18 and a 0018. Right, they're solid mahogany back and sides, made in our Navajoa facility. They're ebony fingerboard and bridge. They're all 18 style appointments, and it has a torrefied Sitka top.
When I heard the name Retro Plus, it reminded me of the guitar from 10 years ago,
Yes.
the Retro series. And I started thinking about Aura and IRs, but it's not that, right? It's just reusing the name.
We're reusing the name because we own the name, so we just go Retro Plus, and the plus stands for it has electronics in it with a tuner, and then we'll do retro versions that maybe don't have the electronics in it. And you're going to see more coming on that line.
What's the price point for that in the USA?
I think it's right around $1,800.
Looks great, stage ready.
Correct.
And you can just go.
Solid mahogany back and sides, torrefied top, ebony fingerboard bridge, and 18 style. And it actually says Martin on the headstock, as opposed to somebody buying copies of guitars that look like Martins.
And actually, if you play that at the Irish pub, you probably get more tips than if you play this, because they'll assume that you're a millionaire.
You're already too rich.
All right, Fred. So great to see you. Great lineup this year. Really interesting. And we'll look forward to 2026 and beyond.
Thanks for all your support.
Thank you.
Aaron.
Thank you.
You're welcome.